A bill is a proposal for a new law or proposal to change an existing law presented for a debate before Parliament. For example, the Child Care Payments Act 2014 was introduced due to a new tax-free scheme to support eligible parents with childcare costs. Government would provide 20% support on costs up to £10,000 per year for each child via an online account, and the government would top up payments made into an account. It is capped at a maximum contribution of £2,000 a year for each child.
The first stage of the bill's passage is just a formality, which takes place without a debate but is designed to explain what the bill is about. The title of the bill is read out and copies are available to the members. They can ask questions and scrutinise the bill, but a debate does not happen until the second reading. The date for the second reading is set after the bill has been discussed in the first reading. The government's chief financial minister and his team, supported by the Prime Minister, presented the bill on childcare payments to the House of Commons. They discussed making of payments towards the cost of childcare and to restrict the availability of an exemption from income tax in respect to the supply an employee to conduct childcare, or vouchers for obtaining childcare under a scheme operated by or on behalf of the employer. This stage is important as it gives an overview of what the bill is and what it will entail if it is to be passed. The stage is solely informative and allows follow-up questions to clear any discrepancy. The second reading happens within 14 days of the first reading, where the bill is presented. The bill is usually proposed by the senior minister within the department responsible for the bill. This is the stage in which the bill is discussed and the members can debate on key points or controversial points within the bill itself. However, detailed discussion is saved for the committee stage. The debate normally finishes with another government minister addressing some of the most important points raised within the debate. The Financial Secretary to the Treaty, Nicky Morgan, led the debate by first discussing the bill and then opening it up to discussion. She put forward a very compelling argument in favour of the bill, saying, "Members will know very well, many from their own experiences, every year millions of families across the country are faced with difficult decisions, whether it makes greater financial sense to stay at home and manage childcare themselves or to go to work and arrange for someone else to do it." The vast majority of the House of Lords agreed with her and therefore began to discuss financial discrepancies and ideas to keep the standard high but the money spent as low as possible. Cost efficiency is a major part of the discussion and modifications are made to the bill. The debate finished and it was agreed that the bill can pass onto committee stage and be further amended and discussed. This stage is important as the House of Commons is full of specialists who know the ins and outs of the subject and each question on the bill. This means they can have informed discussions and can make educated guesses on how the allowance of passing the bill can affect the future in social, moral, educational and economic sense. The bill has passed through the first and second stages. It is on its long journey towards the royal assent. It must now come under further scrutiny from the committee stage. In the House of Commons, the committee is set up to examine the bill in high detail and are given the power to make relevant changes where they see fit. The minister representing the department introducing the bill, the opposition spokesperson, or any member of the committee is allowed to make changes and new clauses to the bill where they see them fit to be added. In January 2007, public bill committees replaced standing committees. This gave parliamentarians the ability to receive written evidence and the power to call witnesses to testify on the detail of legislation they are examining. The committee led by the chair, Jim Sheridan, first discussed the timetable they would follow. They then addressed issues that had been previously brought up in prior stages and resolved them. They also discussed finances and how they prioritised their money for maximum effect. Every part of the bill was discussed and either amended or thrown out. These meetings were ongoing from the 14th of October to the 16th of October. This is so they do not have to rush and they can examine the entire bill. This stage is important as it discusses the issues and amends anything that they think is incorrect or does not belong in the bill. It also allows the members to understand the entirety of the bill.
The report stage gives MPs an opportunity on the floor of the House to consider further amendments, proposals for change to a bill which has been already examined by the committee. All MPs may speak and vote for long-winded or complex bills that debates may spread over for several days. They can suggest amendments to the bill or new clauses, parts they think should be added. In this stage, the MPs suggested new clauses so parts they think should be added. They added proposals relating to 3 and 4-year-olds. The government's chief financial minister shall, within 3 months of the Act coming into force, will lay a report before the House of Commons. It will be an assessment of the benefits of the top-up payments to people responsible for a child or children aged 3 to 4 years, and an assessment of the benefits of funding 25 hours per week free childcare for working parents responsible for children aged 3 or 4. But they raised some concerns on the bill as it does not go anywhere near far enough to provide the support that thousands of families and parents need right now. The stage is important because they must review the bill and debate the changes that have been proposed by the committee, as it may change the results and can affect the dynamic of the bill. The government want to welcome any new investment in childcare, in particular on extra care and support for hard-pressed parents, families who are struggling with juggling work and family life. The third reading is the final chance for the House of Commons to debate the contents of a bill. It's usually short and limited onto what is actually in the bill. No amendments can be made, and at the end of the debate, the House decides and votes whether they approve the third reading of the bill. The government strongly believes that childcare costs should not be a barrier to work for the parents. Since 2010, they have introduced measures to help working families cover nursery costs for their children and new childcare scheme, which will greatly expand the support they provide to working families towards their childcare costs. In the report stage, they added 2 parts to the bill which they thought should be included. The first clause was denied, but government's chief financial minister will have to review the impact of making childcare more affordable, on what the average cost of childcare for parents in work is, and on whether measures could be more effective. The third reading is important as it will have all the amendments and clauses added. It will give the MPs a chance to ask questions on the things they are concerned about, things they may not understand, or the things they may want more elaboration on. It will give them a chance on to vote whether or not they approve of the bill, as it will determine the next stage of the bill's passage.
Once the bill has been passed in the House of Commons, it is then passed to the House of Lords. It has its first reading in the House, which is read out by the members of the Lords in charge of the bill. It is then discussed within the House and follow-up questions can ensue about what the bill proposes, but is not debated until the second reading. Before the second reading of the bill takes place, members who would like to speak add their name to a list, the speakers list. The debate will question the changes being made, and experts of the subject can express their views on the bill and flag up any concerns or specific areas where they think amendments. The stage can also indicate members who are most intrigued by the bill or aspect of it and will most likely be involved in suggesting changes later on. This debate is opened and may also be closed by the senior government spokesperson in the Lords for the government department responsible for the bill. The second reading will be discussed by professionals and experts explaining the most important points of the Childcare Act of 2014. This stage is important for the House of Lords as they will know the ins and outs of the childcare financial system and therefore can make informed judgments and points about the different part of the bill. The committee stage involves an examination of every line of the separate parts of the bill that they are trying to pass. They start from the beginning to the end of the bill, and any member of the Lords can take part in this debate. Every part of the bill has to be agreed upon by the Lords. If not, then a vote will take place on any part of the amendment. All amendments flagged by the Lords have to be considered for debate, and members can talk about the issue for as long as they want. The government cannot restrict the subjects under discussion or impose a time limit. On the 9th of December, the Childcare Act of 2014 was discussed in the committee stage in the House of Lords. The main Lords were debating the positives and negatives of each part of the bill they see as a potential issue or the benefits that the new bill proposes. The many purposes of the Childcare Act of 2014 was to give parents an easy and accessible way to receive childcare payments from the government and not from the employers, who are unreliable. This will help 1.3 million more families who are not receiving employer-related schemes and will be able to support more families with this scheme in it. It is important because the scheme will provide support for those children up to the age of 12 than what the 5% of employers that are currently offering the scheme. This means that over half of the employers are simply unable to access it. Employer-supported childcare fails to pay any regard to the number of children that parents actually have. It can provide a higher level of support to a family with 2 adults and 1 child than it does with a lone parent with multiple children.
This report stage gives all members of the Lords a further opportunity to examine and make changes to the bill. Before it begins, the amendments are all gathered together and placed in order in the marshalled list. The bill is then repeated after the report stage where it is included in all the agreed amendments. They introduced again the Childcare Payments Bill, which introduces a new tax-free childcare scheme. Once it is in place, the government will meet 20% of eligible working families' childcare costs up to an annual maximum of £2,000 for each child. That is equivalent of a basic rate tax relief for childcare costs up to £10,000. It is clear that many parents are currently unable and would like to work, provided they can find a successful way to combine work and family life. These are precisely the families that the bill is designed to help. The report stage is important because it gives the Lords a chance to examine the bill and gain a better understanding on the scheme, as well as giving them an understanding of if they want to make changes or not. The scheme is determined by the number of children that they have, rather than the number of parents who employers operate the employer-supported childcare scheme. It will bring an end to the unfairness of one-parented families that have more than one child. The third reading is the Lord's chance for members to tidy up the bill, concentrating on making sure the law is effective and workable. Unlike the House of Commons, amendments can be made providing that the issue has not been fully considered on during either committee stage or reporting stage. They are often used to clarify specific parts of the bill and to allow the government to make good promises of change they made at earlier stages of the passage of the bill. In the third reading, the bill is repeated on everything that has been said in the report stage, starting with introducing of the Childcare Payments Bill and a new tax-free childcare scheme. They raised a number of wide issues. For example, they raised some of the real difficult problems and issues about how you spend a limited amount of money to the best effect. The government aren't always 100% successful in that, but they are funding for a scheme that benefits a proportion, certainly not the people that they necessarily want to benefit. By chance, the way your employer decides to operate the scheme and moving it to the scheme that treats everybody in work with children fairly. The third reading in the House of Commons is important because it gives the Lords a chance to gain a better understanding of whether or not the law will be effective rather than not workable. They can make changes if it is needed and hasn't been raised by the committee, and they can raise their concerns if they have any. They will have a vote on whether or not they approve of the bill. If there has been changes by the Lords, that they'll have to resend the bill through the process again, but if not, it is sent to the monarch for royal assent. When a bill has completed all of its stages in both houses, it must be approved by the royal assent before it can become an Act of Parliament. The announcement is then made in both houses, and then the legislation will either commence immediately or after a set period.
In conclusion, the stages of the bill are important as it gives you a better understanding on how a law is made and the development process it has to go through, as both houses need to make changes and add things in order to make the law more effective.
Bill is usually short and limited on what is actually in it.
Every part of the bill has to be agreed on upon all.
Final
and experts of the Every part of the bill has to be agreed.
Believes that the child care costs should not be a barrier to work for the parents.
That's all, folks.